What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Dash Render. I am not wearing a shirt right now just to meet my quota. Then we will go ahead and get into the outfits, the costumes, and the actual fun nerdy stuff. But the purpose of the video today is going to be to test this helmet. To start, this is a Maximilian helmet. It was coined that in a later date, basically named after Maximilian I in the 1450s. Some people attribute it to Maximilian II, but regardless, it wasn't named that until the Renaissance period later down the line. Figuration of this is a closed visored helmet. So you can see here, you can pop it up, and underneath it you almost have a bit of a sallet. There's some people that say sallet. From what I've seen, sallet is the most appropriate term, but I digress. So you have this part over here, which is open face visor, and then you can close that visor right here and lock it in place. There's different locking mechanisms as well that can work better than others, but that's going to be the way the helmet's configured. It has articulation in the back as well for the neck there, and if you want to go into battle, let's say catch your breath, you can put it on, and then when you're ready you can drop that visor down. Very defining characteristics is the fluted parts in the front here. That was done is because the weapons began to evolve as time went on in the period, and there was less weapons that had a long edge for slashing and more for thrusting. So it was supposed that these would be better against thrusting elements. Those breaks or those flutes in there would help break up those thrusting swords. Also, it was fashionable at the time to start adding those fluted design to clothing and different things. So it's just kind of function and form, I guess you could say. This was sent to me by a follower with the sole intention of me trying to destroy it. He bought a helmet similar to it and wanted to see how it held up against the warbow, the mace, and all the other things in my arsenal. So from what I gather, this is 16 gauge steel. It is a mild steel, so it's not going to be the strongest armor on the planet. It's got really good angles here, so I feel like if I don't get a direct hit, it's going to slide off of that helmet. And I'm going to try a couple different angles. I want to try front facing, side, and then back as well. Different angles of the helmet, how it looks if it deflects off of it. Be a pretty expensive episode, but I'm excited to break it in. This is how I'm going to set it up. It's not going to matter so much for the front facing shot, but I have this padded gambeson sleeve here to act as the padding for the helmet. And then I also have this riveted butted mail that was made for me that's actually really good quality. That's going to be underneath it when I'm doing the side shots. So to start, I'm just going to set it up on top here just for an extra layer. And we're going to slide this over top of it. Oh, it's a little bit of a tight squeeze. Hold on. Nice and snug. And that's a very form-fitting fit right there. So that's going to act as a really good buffer or protection. Time they would wear a helmet, naturally, you're going to want something underneath it so it's not just metal hitting your face. So for the front-facing shots, it's here. When I turn it to the side, I'm going to add the riveted butted mail in there also to give that extra layer. And so if it does punch through, we'll see if it goes through every part of the armor. I mean it when I say this is probably going to be a pretty expensive test. I'm probably going to blow through a few arrows here. So if you guys ever want to contribute to the page so I can buy more arrows, feel free to let me know. If not, I'll just keep making them. Takes a while, but I'm happy to do it. We got the 155-pound warbow with these 1400 grain arrows with a bodkin tip. We're gonna do a front-facing shot to begin. Let's see. So, I mean, you can see the helmet did a really good job. I don't know if you can tell in the video. That's one arrow down, by the way. When it hit, it basically was able to transfer immediately. That angle was enough just to push it away. And it looks like the hardest impact point was here, and then it broke into here, and that's where it hit, and then the arrow went off. So the impact was here. So that was like a good example of a graze. Now I'm gonna do one, try to get more dead center, and this is gonna be an up close one, but slow-mo to see how that looks. You can see that went through here, and then upon lifting it up, here, let me take it off and we'll look it over there. Okay, so here's what we have for the impact point. The one that hit right up here, you can see it punch through really easily, but it actually hit the layer underneath where it was doubled up. So it was 2 layers of 16 gauge steel. So it punched through the first really easily. You can see Probably can't see actually. Punched through the first layer really easily. The second one, it hit right in here and did significant damage in there. You can see it concaved it in a little bit, but that would definitely keep you safe. The next thing I want to do is I want to try and capture a slow-mo glancing shot to kind of see what that looks like in slow motion, because the first one glanced, I didn't catch it. Then after that one, what I want to do is I want to do one directly to the face, because that's not doubled up or double layered, and I get it right there, it's really going to cause some problems. All right, so you guys can keep track of the arrow counter with me. So far we are down 2 shots, 2 arrows. Next one is going to be the ricochet, and then straight on the visor. Now that is actually super cool to see. I'll play it back in the slow motion. Oops, my bow. You can see is how well the fluted design actually works, because in the high speed for an iPhone, you can see the moment it hits here, it kind of bumps up on this ridge a little bit, and it deflects or changes the angle of the arrow so the point is not able to hit it at a hard point, and it basically just snaps into it, and then it hits the wood and causes the arrow to basically explode. So up here where there's no ridges, it tends to grip a little bit better, it seems. And on the faceplate, which I thought would actually be a weaker point, unless you actually hit like right inside so it could grab, it feels like those little ridges just do enough to kind of cause the angle of the arrow to switch a little bit and just go off kilter. So a really effective design. That's actually super cool. I'm gonna have the side shot, and I'm gonna have the riveted mail here with the padded gambeson. I'm gonna set this on top, shove it down, and the goal is gonna be to try to aim for about right here. I would say that'd be like the weakest part, and I want to see how it does with those onion stacking layers of armor, because this is gonna be, I think, a weaker part of the helmet if someone got hit from the side. So let's see how that goes. A little low, let's see. It wasn't a good hit. I think it barely glanced on it and didn't do much. So let's go ahead and try a little closer up shot now, slow-mo. All right, so that was actually pretty cool. One, because I didn't break an arrow, and two, that went in and actually, okay, let's take this down and see how deep it went. Okay, so here's what we got for that one. So this was the arrow that went in. You can see that went in about that deep right there. So at this point right here. So that's a really good penetration. But the good thing about these helmets also, you may not be able to see it, is that they have on the top right here, this padding where it doesn't, your head doesn't sit all the way on top of it. You have a little bit of a buffer there. And so there would still be padding over that and everything, but if it actually hit that point at the very tippity top, you would probably be okay, because you have that extra little gap on top and it's not going to hit you. But the one thing I do want to do is just get that one shot right here and see what happens to it at that thinner layer. Okay, so we're set up here again. As you can see, we have the riveted butted mail right here. Underneath it, the padded gambeson, and I want to try and get one right in here to see what that does. Oh, can't hit them all. That was the shot that I wanted, right through here. So that went in all the way through the helmet, and let's see how he fared underneath it. So the mail where it hit looks relatively undisturbed, and it didn't go through this at all. So that's just gonna be an example of having those additional layers on top of it, because the steel, like I guess this is 16 gauge, it's not, you know, super great steel armor, but you can see that just having those extra layers, even with a subpar steel helmet, is going to make a huge difference. So even if a knight or an arrow could get through a knight's armor, it's going to have a really hard time getting through all this stuff right here to make it through to have any sort of serious damage. All in all, I'd say the helmet performed okay. Really, the only saving grace was, in fact, the layers underneath it. The steel itself didn't do an amazing job, but still not a bad quality helmet. Ugh. Outfit change, and then do some damage. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a kilt, but one thing I do have is a greatsword. So we're just gonna do some straight steel on steel contact, see how it does, see if the flutes inside the helmet help to like distribute the slashes away from it, or if it's just gonna cave in with a heavier duty sword. So this will be a fun one. I got some pent up aggression from losing all those arrows. We're just gonna smash this thing. All right, so what do we got here? Well, you can see the one over the top was definitely a devastating hit. Cut really deep into here and on the front even. And if you lift up, you can see that second part right here, it did a good job. Once it hit the 2 layers, it didn't punch through as deeply. The one in the back was really a menacing strike. That one completely caved the back of it in a great deal. So that is a sizable amount of impact, and that would cause concussion, death, what have you. But the really cool thing to me is that the front here, you can see when I hit the front right in this area here, it caused the blade to flip a little bit. So it's designed to do, and literally caused it so it diffused the impact. So when I first started trying to think about this, I thought the front part would actually be the weakest, but you can really see the merit behind that design, because as it hits, it diffuses the impact and kind of turns the blade in my hand and causes the strike just not to do near as much damage. So what I thought would be like a weaker point just kind of goes to show that the creativity behind the design, and it actually works really well against those slashing type blows. Well, everybody, I think now you know what time it is. It's time to bring out the big boy and see what happens. Sean, I thank you for your donation. It is going to good use. How did our intrepid helmet fare against the might of Grond? Well, pretty terribly, as you might imagine. This strike right over the top here just obliterated everything. You can see one of the spikes hit it right in there. The shot from the back, that was even with just the bottom part, so it wasn't actually a great swing, but that dove in substantially deep, destroyed it. The one on the face right here, you can see it caught it right inside here and just blew that back in the helmet. And I mean, this thing has just in an afternoon gone from a very pretty designed helmet to just a flat mold of craziness. And I'm gonna see if I can fit on my head. Hold on. Okay, yes, it still fits. Does the visor work? Kinda works. Oh, okay, there we go. Oh, no. Visor does not work very well. So, that being said, this one would probably not pass muster, I think. And the coolest thing about this to me was, in fact, basically the proof of concept about the fluted design, being able to really disperse those impacts when they came in, whether that's through causing the sword to slip a little bit or causing the arrow to deflect. I mean, when you hit that straight steel, you can see this is the 16 gauge, so it's not great steel, but it's good. And you can see when it hits that flat part, it's not going to be enough to diffuse. It doesn't slide off enough. But if you have those little ridges in there, those little flutes, those little speed bumps, it really makes all the difference in the world. So it's like a really cool little thing. It may be aesthetic because of the periods and the timepiece that it existed in, but functionality wise, it did a great job. The other thing I thought that was a really cool demonstration was having those additional layers in there to kind of compensate for the impact of an arrow or different things. Where I had that one shot right here that did really well clean through, it was stopped by the riveted mail and the padded gambeson. So even if you got hit in the head, it would jar you, but it would keep it from going all the way through. And then when we moved on to the crazy heavy duty, you know, maces and things like that, it's not gonna hold up. Steel just can only do so much. You know, you saw with the 14 gauge steel, that collapsed that in as well. And then the heavy sword strikes also did good damage. So you can see that the armor is not really hardened, you know, up to snuff necessarily, but it was fun to see and fun to do. So thank you guys for tuning in, because this was a great test. And I know I say that at the end of every video, but this is the most fun a person can have. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you, Sean, for sending this to me, because I am all set. I'm gonna have a great week the rest of this week because of you. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And if you want, like I said, comment, like, subscribe. If you want to donate to Patreon or however for my arrows, it was an expensive amount of testing. I think I went through 4 arrows today. I wanted to do more, but the number just kept tallying up in my head. So thanks for tuning in, and until next time, have a good week and break some stuff. Over top, nice and snug. Next I'm going to do a side shot. I'm going to have the riveted